In this lesson, you will be able to graph using the slope-intercept form. You can graph any 2 points given or any equation given using multiple ways. The first method that you learned using to graph was just to find the domain and the range, get some random points, and put the points on the graph and connect the lines. This is the second method using the slope and the intercept form. So go ahead and pause the video and copy these down. The slope-intercept form, the formula to go with that is y is equal to m times x plus b. And also make sure that you are writing the m as a slope, which is what you learned in the previous lesson. The y stands for the y and the x stands for the x. The b, on the other hand, is what we call it as a y-intercept. That is the point where the line crosses the y-axis. We learned about the x-intercept and the y-intercept. The y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis at that point. So the y-intercept has a name to it, which is b. So let's focus on question number 8. Identify the slope and the y-intercept of the line with the given equation. So you got an equation y equals negative 1/4 x plus 8. The question is just a straightforward simple question where they are just asking you to find the slope and the y-intercept. To do that, you need to recognize the formula, which is y is equal to mx plus b. Now, look at the one that I'm going to highlight. That is my b. So the y-intercept which I'm going to call it as b, is nothing but positive 8. Now coming to the first one, which is a slope. The slope, in this case, I'm calling it as m. I'm going to use the highlighter using the green. Now look at the one in blue. So the x is the same as x. The only thing that is different in this case is the slope, which is the m. So the m takes on the value of negative 1/4, which is what they are asking you to find. They are asking you to identify the slope and the y-intercept, which is what you did. Now look at this question number 10. It's a multiple choice question. What is the y-intercept of the line with the equation x minus 3y equals negative 12? Number one, you have to rewrite the equation, which is what you learned in lesson 3.8. So let's take the equation x minus 3y equals negative 12. Number one, you have to get the y alone, which is rewriting or solving for y. So you need to move this and this to the other side. The 3 is so close to the y, you cannot get to it until you get rid of the x. Look at the sign before the x. It is positive. So the opposite is negative x on this side and negative x on this side. Now put a line. Positive x, negative x cancels out. So all I am left with on the left side is just a negative 3y and the equal sign. On the right side, I'm just going to drop them down. Just bring it straight down. Now remember, I want to get the y alone. So which means the 3 and the y, you don't see any sign, which basically means negative 3, which I'm going to highlight and show you. The negative 3 multiplies y. The opposite of multiplying by negative 3 will be to divide by negative 3 here, divide by negative 3 here, and divide by negative 3 here. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 gives you a 1. So you get y is equal to negative 12 divided by negative 3 is going to give you a positive 4. And negative x, both the negatives combines to give you a positive x over 3, which I am going to look at the question now, and they are asking me to find the y-intercept. To find the y-intercept, the formula is y is equal to mx plus b. So which means b is the y-intercept. So which means I'm looking at the equation and I'm looking at, okay, I got the y I got the equal sign, but then the x values comes to the front. So using the commutative property, I'm going to switch these two around to get x over 3 plus 4. Now, if I look at y equals mx plus b, the question is asking you for the y-intercept. So if I highlight and show you where the y-intercept is, I'm going to use the purple. So this will be my y-intercept. So the y-intercept, which has a name to it, which we call it as a b, the letter b, is now equal to a positive 4. And the answer to this question will be C. Let's focus on question number 14. Rewriting the equations. Rewrite the equation in slope-intercept form. That is why when we were doing Chapter 3, Lesson 8, I kept saying that you are going to rewrite the equation and you will get comfortable with the practice. So look at the question number 14. I got negative 12x minus 4y equals 2. So if they want you to rewrite in slope-intercept form, which means you need to get y equals mx plus b, and that is slope-intercept form. It really does come together with the practice, so stay in there. You need to get the y alone. So which means this is what you need to get alone. You need to move all of these to the other side. The only way to do it is to do the opposite. You cannot get to this negative 4 because it's so close to the y. Get rid of this. Negative 12x. Let's go into the positive 12x on this side and a positive 12x on this side. Make sure that you have the signs to go along with them. Negative 12x, positive 12x cancels out. So the only thing I'm left with just a negative 4y and the equal sign, and you have 2 plus 12x. So now I need to get the y alone. Now look at this one. If I'm going to highlight in blue, negative 4 multiplies y. The opposite of multiplying by negative 4 is to divide by negative 4 here, divide by negative 4, and divide by negative 4. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 gives you a 1, so you get y is equal to 2 divided by negative 4. It's going to give you just negative 0.5, and positive 12 divided by negative 4 is going to give you negative 3x. Remember, the x needs to tag along. And now if you look at the formula, you have y is equal to mx plus b. So that means the x value should come first. So I'm going to use the commutative property and I'm going to switch these two around. I'm going to switch places. So I'm going to write negative 3x and I'm going to tag along my negative 0.5. So I'm writing y is equal to mx plus b, which is the original slope-intercept form. So the first part is done. Then they are asking you to identify the slope and the y-intercept. They want you to find out which one is the slope and what number you have for the y-intercept. So the slope is m and the y-intercept is your b. So let's use the highlighter. So this is my slope and this is my x and this is my b. So watch the colors. So the slope m is negative 3. X is the same as x. So basically this is my slope. My y-intercept is basically this. So the y-intercept is negative 0.5, which is the final answer. Now comes to the main part, which is graphing the equations. Look at question number 26. You got y equals negative 5 over 2x plus 2. If you are given an equation like this, you can graph them by using the table method, which basically means, if you remember from unit 2, that means you can take on some values for x and y. You can take some values for x, like say negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, and 2. You can substitute these numbers for the x, do the calculations, get the y value, and then get the points, and then connect the points and figure out the answer. To be honest, you do not have to know which method you have to use because they don't specify. All you need to do is graphing the equation. So I would prefer if you have the x and the y, assuming some random points for the table and then getting the y, that method works, that is perfectly fine. The second method that you have in your strategy is to graph this equation using your x-intercept and your y-intercept. Now this also comes from your unit 3. So if you look at your x-intercept and your y-intercept, remember the x-intercept is your x value when your y is a 0. When your y is a 0. So if you substitute y as a 0 and do some calculations for your x, you will get the points. So let's do this together with the x-intercept. So you get 0 for the y, so I'm replacing y as 0 equals negative 5 over 2x plus 2. So 0 is equal to negative 2.5x plus 2. Remember, I need to find what my x is. So I'm going to do minus 2 on this side and minus 2 on this side. Cancel. And I have negative 2 is equal to negative 2.5x. Negative 2.5 is multiplying. The opposite will be to divide by negative 2.5 here and negative 2.5 here. Cancel. And you get x is equal to and you get x is equal to 0.8. So which basically means when your x value is 0.8, your y value is a 0. So I'm going to use that as one of my points. And now I'm going to find out what my y-intercept is. Remember, graphing the equation is actually the easier and the simpler method because you have multiple ways to get the answer. So now going for the y-intercept. Remember, the y-intercept is when your x value is a 0 and you get something for the y. So since you know that your x is 0, so I'm going to take the original equation and I'm going to substitute minus 2 over 5 over 2 and I'm going to replace my x is 0 plus 2. Any number multiplied by 0 is going to give you just 0 plus 2. So my y is now going to be 2. So I'm going to replace this by 2. So I have 2 points. So this is using the x-intercept and the y-intercept. Now I'm going to go back. So 0.8 comma 0. So 0.8 comma 0 is this point. 0 comma 2. So 0 comma 2 is this point. And if I use the highlighter and connect these 2 points and keep extending, my graph is going to look exactly like this. Now let's focus on question number 32. They are asking you to tell whether the graphs of the two equations are parallel lines. You need to understand and you need to write something down. Go ahead and write parallel lines have the same slope, which is perfect. So for example, if one line has a slope of 3, the second line which is parallel to it should also have the same slope of 3. So now I have two equations. My first equation is y is equal to 5x minus 7, which is perfect. Now I'm looking at my second equation, which is 5x plus y is equal to 7. There is nothing I can do to find the slope until I get the y alone, which is rearranging the equations. So I need to get the y alone, which means I need to move this to the other side by doing the opposite. The sign before the 5x is positive, so go into the negative 5x on this side and negative 5x on this side. Line 5x and negative 5x cancels out, so I just have the y is equal to 7 minus 5x. Now remember, your formula should look like y is equal to mx plus b, which means you need to get the x values first. So now I'm going to shuffle these around, which means I'm going to move things around. So this is my this is my x value. So I'm going to bring it to the front, negative 5x, and this is my y value, which is going to be in green. And now the only thing I have to caution you is when you shuffle these around, when you move things around, negative 5x is a straightforward one, and 7, you cannot just write the 7. You got to look at the sign for the 7. 7 is a positive 7. So now you have y is equal to mx plus b. And for the first equation, I'm going to write the same thing. Y is equal to mx plus b. Now remember, if this equation is parallel to this equation, then the slope must be the same. So if I go in with the purple for the first equation, the slope is this. If I go in for the second equation, the slope is this. So for the first equation, the slope is 5. For the second equation, the slope is negative 5. So the first one is a 5, the second one is a negative 5. Even though the numbers are the same, because of the sign which is negative, the answer is, tell whether the graphs of the two equations are parallel lines. The answer is no, they are not parallel, because they do not have the same slope. That is the reasoning.